It can vary from place to place, but I was close to my third year of my apprenticeship before I even started into actual tuning, because it was essential to learn everything that there was to be learned about the technical side of the business. Restoration, rebuilding, which became very, very valuable for me when I came over to this country. We roughly say that to be a concert technician, which I was for well over 50, 60 years when I came over here, they estimated you had to have about 10 years experience of constantly doing it before they would accept you as a concert technician. So I was very fortunate to make good contacts. I was with the Steinway Piano Company when I very first came. My last job was with Vladimir Horowitz in Carnegie Hall. That was a very interesting day with Vladimir Horowitz, and I had the privilege of tuning for him at least 3 times when he came to Syracuse, and got along very well, and he actually helped to get me started in the concert, made very good contacts for me in Syracuse, and there was a lot more classical music going on at that time than there is today, and it opened up a wealth of work with the Civic Modern Musicals, who, for what they do, are the oldest musical organization in the United States, and the third oldest since they were established, and they're still going on. They opened doors for me there, and also the Central New York Association of Music Teachers. So I have a lot to thank Vladimir Horowitz for. It's been a very, very interesting career. Mm-hmm. And I'm 85. In a few weeks I'll be 86. Mm-hmm. And while I've cut back tremendously, I've turned over much of my concert work to other individuals, not because I can't still do it, because I do it on occasion, but owed it to my dear wife, not to be tied up in evenings and weekends and on call, that sort of thing, you know. Sure. So I owed it to my beloved Margaret to ease up. So, but I'm still working most every day. To let one understand, you have 88 different pitches on the piano, 88 keys, and I guess you would say the secret is how to divide all these intervals so that no matter what key you go into, it's going to sound very pleasant to the ear. For instance, the first pitch, the low A on a standard 88 note piano, has 27.5 vibrations per second. Now the highest C on the piano, the 88th note, has 4,186 vibrations per second. Now, how do you divide that up? You see, that's where the secret is. The standardized pitch is A440, the A above middle C should sound 440 times per second, which you have to be spot on when you're tuning in a place such as we are in, or in most every case we want to be spot on. Now there are extreme cases where some orchestras use 442, 444, And that can be on a piano that is being tuned regularly at 440. It can be a pain in the neck, and actually not good for the instrument to keep changing it all the time. You start with an A fork, which sounds 440 times per second. You can get your other forks for the different pitches, but or you can use a C, the C above the middle C, which should sound 523.3. Now you may ask, how can you count that? Well, actually we're not counting it, but we are counting it from, we start with our tuning fork, and we can tell the difference, the wow, 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 whatever, can vary greatly on pianos that are not tuned regularly, or even pianos that are tuned very regularly. I have pianos I tune every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, and it's amazing because of our climatic conditions. Not only the changes of temperature, but the changes of humidity, which varies greatly in the central New York area and most parts of North America, actually. I sometimes wonder if there is such a thing as a piano that is an absolute perfect pitch. One has to remember that the tension over the modern piano, I say modern piano going from, say, all through the late 1800s, 1900s, and especially when the pitch was, we finally agreed on a standardized pitch throughout most of the Western world, which actually wasn't really completely settled until around 1917. The tension is about 20 tons pressure. If you've ever heard of a piano following and the frame, the cast iron frame, suddenly giving way, breaking, it's like a bomb going off. There's a decided explosion, the sudden release of energy. It's a frightful thing to hear. Or even when a string breaks, it's like a bullet going off. So each string has approximately, it can vary, but it's approximately 150, 160 pounds per string. So when you add that up, we have 88 keys, but you have an average of 230 to 250 strings on a piano, depending on the size and so forth of the piano. So one has to be very, very careful. It's very, very minute. The concentration is absolutely necessary in blocking out everything. You can almost tell before you go into the house what you're going to find. A house that is surrounded by a lot of foliage, for instance, or a stone house, a brick house, retains that moisture much more so than the average wooden built house, just because of the construction of the home. Air conditioning can help to some extent. The location of the piano, some pianos are situated very close to a heating register, for instance. That is bad. Many a home, I will tell, try and get a little dehumidifier for the summer, or a humidifier in the winter. That helps even things out over the 12 months of the year. So all these things enter into what we're up against and fighting against. This part at this time of year is creeping sharp until you hit your bass strings. Very often the bass will be closer. Some unisons within individual strings could be slightly off, but generally, talking in just general terms, the bass, generally speaking, as I emphasize, is always the exception to the rule. But generally speaking, the bass will remain closer to the proper pitch level, whereas this section And it can vary, very often goes right up to the end of the dampers, up to your, about your 67th note, from your 25th, 26th note. That area can go quite sharp because of the bridge is going over the central part of the piano. You can imagine, and I'm exaggerating, but the sounding board with what we call the crown is affected by humidity, you see, or dryness. Now, as I say, at this time of the year, up to the early stage before our heating comes on, this section is going sharp. Now, as the heat comes on again, things get dried out, it settles down, but it keeps going during the winter months. The same sections that were sharp during the late summer, in the late winter goes the opposite direction, going flat. So unfortunately, where we're playing the most and judging everything from, that is going haywire. Look after the instrument. It's a very difficult thing. It's not just that so many people some people will buy a grand piano for the sake of the furniture aspect of it. The look, you've got a grand piano, great. And that's where it ends. But those who that want to take care of the instruments, there's a lot of people that do, and I'm glad to say, and there are many people, probably more, that don't look after their instruments.